Hello everyone! Not so long ago I bought Bosch saw from so-called professional series to replace my Ryobi saw. This is still a compromise between cabinet saw that I wanted and the space that I have at my shop. Bosch saw is much better than my previous one, but still is lacking in many ways. The most annoying problem is a bit of play of every its component. Rails and miter gauge are wobbly and loose. But this is something that can be addressed, at least partially, with some screw repositioning and tightening. The other biggest problem is the fence. That also has some major play and is unreliable. It simply does not want to move parallel to the blade. Like you can see, sliding part of the fence has a lot of free space to move while it shouldn't, and also slider is not rigid enough and bends. Okay, so to eliminate the problem we should find its cause. And I think we have three issues here. Two of them I managed to correct. Third one is essentially a design flaw, so to fix it, it would require to replace the fence system. The first problem is too much play between two plastic sliders and the front rail. You can see that the slider has a lot of play in two planes, vertical one and the horizontal. It would be enough to eliminate one of them, but we should target both. Just to let you know how bad is that, I've measured the gaps. For the horizontal movement it's almost half a millimeter, and for vertical one is even a bit more. I've tried to shim those gaps, and it helped a bit, but sliders are still too flimsy and their connection to metal part of the fence is simply not rigid enough. Second problem is the tail of the fence. There is a triangular metal block that is sliding over the aluminium rail, and it's both a slider and the locking part. Because it's metal-to-metal connection, there is enough friction to make the fence dragging behind while moving it. Together with the front slider play, unless you hold the fence in the middle, it will always move a bit skew to the blade. And finally, the third problem is that the connection of the front part to the fence itself is too flimsy. This should not be the problem when you lock the fence, but when you set it up, it may add to the other setup errors. You can see that I've locked the front sliding part with the clamp, so it won't move anywhere. But I can still bend the fence without using too much force. This is a simple leverage. When you take a look in front, you can clearly see where the problem is. Enough of this whining, now let's talk about how to fix those problems. Let's start literally from the back. It is a simple upgrade. All you need to do is add a sliding bearing, and the funny thing is that the required holes are already there. So we only need new bearing, screw, washer and the nut. I've made two printed spacers, but you can even use two nuts glued together instead. It worked for me during testing. All parts and links are listed in descriptions. Take a look at them. After assembling a new wheel for our fence, I'm making markings to better see how it's working. And now you can see it at work. You won't believe it how much it changes unless you try it. Now let's move to the front. I've designed with many tries and errors new slider that you can print. You probably will have to file them a bit, depending on your printer settings, but that's okay. Those sliders should be snug fit. Definitely, now the fence is moving with much more force needed, but you can adjust it by filing it, of course. I prefer it a bit stiff than too loose. This is comparison of the original one and the printed one. Like you can see, printed is much bigger, and those white markings are from silicone dry grease. All my testing sliders were printed in a black PLA, and they were working just fine. But the final print was done in a white nylon. During my experiments, I've managed to break the thread connecting aluminium profile to the handle. But the washer and the nut is all what was needed to repair it, with a bit of glue. And now it won't break, it's steel. All what's left is to set up the fence parallel to the blade. In my opinion, the best and the easiest way is to first set up the blade parallel to the miter slot, and then set up fence parallel to it. This way your saw will be all true. To set up the fence parallel to the miter slot, first loose 2 screws on the top of the fence. Make sure there is nothing binding on the end of the fence, and it should not if you already installed the wheel. Then, with some truly flat surface, like with the square in this example, even side of the fence with the miter slot. Fix the screws and move the fence few times to check if it gets back to the same position. Now you can call it done. Thanks for watching.